Hey everyone! What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 321, Concerns about the Competition. The towering giant loomed amidst the clouds, and as its final strike landed, it slowly began to fade. Growler sat on the ground, panting heavily, needing quite a while to catch his breath. Mamma mia! I really need to start working out, he muttered as he climbed to his feet. He picked up the box containing the sealed keys and walked to the seal, carefully retrieving each key and placing them one by one back into the container. See Growler! Yikes! Growler jumped, almost dropping the box. He spun around and realized the pale Obaro still had the strength to speak. Or maybe, it was just a final spasm before death? Even Growler, who didn't understand shadow duels, could tell this man was on the brink. Heh! Growler had expected some parting threat, but instead, Obaro just laughed faintly, then fell completely still. As if, just by giving Growler one last scare, he'd fulfilled all he needed in life. What the hell? Was that meant to be a joke? Still clutching the box, Growler nervously watched the man. After a while, he heard footsteps. Kaiba Corp staff in black suits rushed into the forest. No one on the island could have missed that colossal titan in the sky. The moment they realized something had happened, the Kaiba Corp agents sprinted to the scene. Fortunately, upon discovering that the acting principal had seemingly defeated a rogue duelist, they relaxed. One suited man moved to lift Obaro. Just as he reached him, a cloud of black miasma erupted from Obaro's body, hurling the staffer backward into a wall. Then, as if controlled by something else, Obaro's body lifted off the ground, floating midair. Mamma mia! Growler blurted instinctively. Growler, a voice echoed from within Obaro's body. The moment he heard it, Growler, who had been nervous and scared, immediately straightened, eyes wide. It's you! He hadn't heard it often. But even if it turned to dust, he'd never forget that voice. Leo Akaba. So you finally couldn't resist making an appearance, could you? What? Growler froze for a second at Leo Akaba's words. But as a teacher, no, as acting principal, he could afford to be afraid of anyone except Leo Akaba. So he summoned the last of his strength, standing tall to face Obaro. Black flames flickered around Obaro's body, slowly burning his clothes and skin to white ash. Yet the black flames bathed the forest in light. Please step back, Principal Growler, said one Kaiba Corp staffer, moving in front of him. No need. I'm fine right here. Growler refused. He stared straight at the floating silhouette and lowered his voice. Professor Akaba. Where are you now? If you turn yourself in, Kaiba Corp's judgment may yet be lenient. Even now, you think you can fool me? Growler. Leo Akaba's voice emerged from Obaro's body. With arms open, he declared. You're still shackled to one dimension. However, I've transcended such limits. He indeed still saw Growler as just another ambitious rival. So what if you interfered? You've disrupted my plans for now, but what about your student? Without your protection, there's sheep in a slaughterhouse in the other dimension. Growler's brows nodded. The day I round up you and your disciple isn't far off. Just you wait, Growler. And with that, Obaro fell from the sky. Thud. He collapsed, lifeless. Growler stared at the body in silence for a while. So? That's it? That ominous speech was the whole encore? He nudged Obaro's body with his foot. Confirming there was no response, he stepped forward, picked up Obaro's dual disc, and began searching him with the Kaiba Corp staff. Inside his clothes, they found a card shrouded in black smoke. Dark Lord Zerato. his ace monster, and seemingly the source of his power. Growler opened his deck and examined the contents, finding that most of the Dark Lord cards had changed into generic fairy monsters like Goddess of Whim and Wingweaver. It seemed clear. Growler immediately understood the type of spirit card this was. It was exactly like what happened with Atticus. As a professor, he always monitored the well-being of his students. There had been a time when Atticus Rhodes broke down because every card in his deck turned into red ice during a duel. Back then, Growler had approved his and Amaki Hikaru's request to go to the mountain dimension, so he knew what this was. It appeared that simply wearing Dark Lord Zerato, combined with having fairies in your deck, allowed one to wield its power, converting the cards into Dark Lords. Kaiba Corp staff scanned Dark Lord Zerato and then handed it to Growler. Though Kaiba Corp sometimes acted like the world's duelist police, their true mission was to protect duelist rights. Since Growler had won and Obaro had not only used dark power but committed theft, everything rightfully belonged to Growler now. He picked up the card. His right hand tingled slightly, but no inverted cross appeared. Clearly, he wasn't one of the so-called blessed. Still, Growler couldn't pretend he didn't know. As acting principal, with someone trying to steal the Shadow Rider keys today, he needed to make more decisions in this world for the Academy's benefit. The GX tournament had been entrusted to him before the principal resigned. He couldn't let things go wrong now, especially with the principal already under fire. So he needed to focus on both reality and the tournament. Mamma mia! Back in the principal's office, Growler slumped into the chair, feeling like all his bones had fallen apart. Too exhausting. Mentally, physically, the past month had been more taxing than the whole of last year. Still, he forced himself to focus. He pulled out a sheet of stationery and began drafting a letter. After finishing, he paused, then placed the Dark Lord card and another card into the envelope. That second card. His extra compensation from Kaiba Corp after his month-long interrogation, he intended to send it to Amaki Hikaru. That's right. He had written to Amaki Hikaru. He couldn't leave the academy. He had to hold the fort. With things as they were, he had to trust his students. As a teacher, if you can't trust your own pupils, who can you trust? Chapter 322, Professor's Card. A few days later. Amaki-san, please wait. Just as Hikaru and Selena arrived at the forest station, preparing to redirect themselves toward the center of the critical nexus, a Kaiba Corp staff member called out to Hikaru. You have a letter. A letter? Hikaru was a little puzzled. A letter, in this day and age? It's from Acting Principal Growler, the staff member added. Ah, that makes sense. Hikaru nodded. That meant it must be a physical letter. He and Selena followed the staffer to the Kaiba Corp courier hub. The place was buzzing with activity. Inside the station, parcels were piled like mountains, and the workers were furiously cataloging and sweating as they sorted. Hikaru asked and learned that none of these were academy materials, they were care packages sent by families from around the world to their kids at the academy's various branches. With students deployed across the globe and into parallel worlds, their families couldn't help but worry. Treating it like a trip abroad, they sent items to show their love. Since these packages could come from any time zone around the world, Kaiba Corp's logistics team had to work 24/7 to manage it all. Yikes, thank you for all your hard work, Hikaru said sincerely. Growler's letter was sealed with Kaiba Corp's special KC mark, a sign of the highest security level. Regular Kaiba Corp staff weren't even authorized to open it for inspection. Seeing that, Hikaru realized something important must be inside. Growler wouldn't have used such a secure method otherwise. There's a strange power coming from it, Hikaru, Tiara whispered once they reached the station's lounge. I sensed something similar before, from that human named Atticus. Atticus? Darkness? Hikaru frowned and opened the envelope. He carefully set aside the card inside and started reading the letter. Selena leaned over to read as well. After a few minutes, they both finished reading. Their reactions differed. Selena felt oddly disappointed. According to Growler's letter, the good news was her father was alive and well, so well, in fact, that he still had the energy to stir up chaos. So she hadn't become an orphan again. The bad news? Her father was alive and well, and still stirring up chaos. Maybe being an orphan again would have been easier. Sigh. The little girl was filled with complex emotions. Through Growler's letter, Hikaru learned the current state of the human world and confirmed the professor was safe. That was a relief. As for Growler's request to keep an eye on the GX tournament, Hikaru nodded. Even if Growler hadn't asked, he would have done it. Ever since the new semester began, Hikaru had been investigating the Light of Destruction and dismantling fusion army bases across dimensions. He was already doing what he could and what he wanted to do. Besides, this tournament was Principal Shepard's final project before stepping down. That alone made it significant. Out of both emotion and duty, Hikaru would give it his all. He wouldn't put down this responsibility now. Not when the fusion army was involved. In truth, Growler didn't even need to ask. Teachers have their duties, and as the Academy's current ace, Hikaru had his, too. After understanding the situation, Hikaru turned to the two cards wrapped in multiple protective layers. One card, even sealed in solid black casing, still emitted a faint black mist. It was clearly the Dark Lord card Growler had mentioned. He opened the casing, carefully peeled away the sleeves, and looked at the card. Dark Lord Zerato, huh? It had many incarnations: Synchro, Ritual, Angel, Fiend, Zombie, and interesting card lore-wise in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Black mist visibly flowed from the card. Hikaru could feel it when he picked it up, a force stirred in his right hand. The card's energy was clearly trying to seep into him. So this was the blessing Growler had mentioned? Apparently, at least for this card, Hikaru met all its qualification standards. He shook his hand. A faint sting. The Dark Lord archetype did include fusion. Its big boss, Dark Lord Morningstar Lucifer, was a level 12 fusion monster with powerful and versatile effects, great for offense and sustain. Though only one fusion didn't quite make a fusion deck, the release of Dogmatica-branded Dark Lord hybrids had made them very strong. Hikaru's own spare card pool included the fusion card, the first Dark Lord, though he hadn't used it before. Maybe he would soon. After all, where there's one, there's two. If other blessed duelists existed, it was only a matter of time before he ran into more. The other card, though. Hikaru was confused. It was a mysterious card, even he didn't recognize it. According to Growler's letter, it was a card that would make Hikaru cheer with joy the moment he saw it. Growler, having been interrogated for over a month by Kaiba Corp and hailed afterward as a hero, knew he didn't deserve the praise. So when offered compensation, he didn't ask for stronger ancient gear cards. Instead, he asked Kaiba Corp to search for a card, one of great meaning to his students, to himself, and especially to Hikaru's deck. A card that perfectly fits Hikaru's style. One he saw as the most important for Hikaru's path as a fusion duelist. Growler didn't expect Kaiba Corp to actually find it, but to his surprise, they scoured their global branches and friendly dimensions and located the precious card. What kind of card would Professor treasure so much? Selena asked, eyes wide. As a duelist, she was still miffed that her father had moved on to another daughter, but her curiosity was stronger. What kind of card would the legendary Professor Growler deem worthy of giving to his student? A god card? A legendary card? Selena speculated aloud. If it was something like that, maybe she'd get to use it, too. Hikaru, equally curious, opened the black card case, peeling back the sleeves layer by layer. As the card's color began to show, he felt a sudden rush of emotion. Wait, no way. Even Tiara, usually detached, gasped. Ha? A low-level monster? Selena tilted her head in confusion. Hikaru just shouted, ah! Selena looked between her mentor and the spirit companion. Hikaru, usually calm and reserved, had actually yelled? Tiara, who cared about almost nothing, was equally shocked. Hikaru's hands trembled as he held the card, barely able to keep it from slipping. Professor. Kaiba Corp really managed to find this card as compensation? If you'd asked for rare ancient gears instead, you could have had anything you wanted. You gave up too much, for me. I can't even hide what I'm feeling. That's right. It was just a simple low-level monster. However, this card was anything but ordinary. Because it was Alistair the Invoker. Chapter 323, The Change of a Card. Alistair the Invoker. Hikaru stared at the card, sank into a chair, and fell into deep thought. Despite being a card nearly a decade old, Alistair was famously known. Even before his dimensional travel, this card had shown up in Tier 2 decks. When the Abyss series artwork began circulation, Alistair combined with Shaddolls and Dogmaticas to dominate the meta once again. It was a standalone card that could hold its own alongside entire archetypes. In theory, Alistair and Hikaru's Predaplan Chimera Flesia were from the same era, but their significance was entirely different. After all, Alistair was once seen as a card that changed fusion. As for the other card that truly changed fusion, Predaplan Verdanaconda, it seemed non-existent in this world. So when Professor Banner once called Alistair a fusion beyond its era, it might not have been much of an exaggeration in this world. Of course, that kind of game-changing deck like Tier Laments was in a category of its own. Beyond card mechanics, Alistair had a much more personal meaning. To the elders of the Fusion Club, to Professor Growler, and to Amaki Hikaru himself, indeed, to everyone who had lived through the Shadow Rider incident, this card held extraordinary significance. As the final opponent of the Shadow Rider arc, as the event's ender, as their final boss, Professor Banner had nearly wiped them all out. In the end, it was due to one tiny misstep on his part that Hikaru turned the tide, and it was Alistair's effect that sealed the win. Alistair was Professor Banner's ace. In a way, it was the starting point of all their growth. It was also because of Alistair that Hikaru fully inherited Banner's alchemy and began studying the Emerald Book. Since then, Hikaru had traveled to countless dimensions. He had always wanted to collect Alistair, yet, no matter the world, he couldn't find it. Even in the village of spellcasters, or mages gathered, their wisest members told Hikaru that Crowley, one of their 3 founding sages, was unreachable. So Hikaru came to understand. Just as Chaos Warrior was a symbol among warriors, Alistair was a title of ultimate prestige among spellcasters. Alistair represented a supreme dual spirit of the spellcaster tribe. Who would have thought Professor Growler could actually obtain this card? Hikaru closed his eyes in thought. Even this card, he was able to acquire. If Growler had asked for Ancient Gear Chaos Giant or Ultimate Giant, Kaiba Corp would have delivered them in minutes. Hikaru took a deep breath. Time to restructure his deck. He spent a while reconfiguring it. Truthfully, his deck was already quite normal. Alongside his heavy fusion lineup, he had a fair number of Gem Knights and Shaddolls. In duels, he could often lean into one axis alone. However, with Alistair, everything changed. He could now forcibly bridge the 2 engines using Alistair. And he didn't even need to worry about super polymerization fusing him away. Because Hikaru reached for the Emerald Book beside him, opened it slowly, and flipped through until he pulled out a card used as a protected bookmark. Invoked Magellanica. Professor Banner's favorite invoked, and the card Alistair's spirit had once left behind for Hikaru. Most invoked monsters had simple fusion materials. Alistair plus a monster of a specific attribute. So there was no need to worry about super polymerization. Only one problem remained: Magellanica was an Earth fusion. And Hikaru didn't run any Earth Shaddolls. After a full day of tuning, Hikaru dueled against Selena. Even if the attribute match wasn't perfect, Selena quickly understood why both Tiara and Hikaru had been so excited. 1-card starters, 0 cost, straight fusion, recyclable? Even in a casual spar, Selena could feel its overwhelming power. It had been a while since Hikaru last used Alistair. It felt nostalgic. Even after refining the deck, he didn't put the Emerald Book away. Previously, Hikaru had stopped unlocking the dimensional coordinates left by Banner because he'd hit the ceiling of his alchemy path. Yet, he still remembered the letter from the spellbook magician. Back in the village of spellcasters, the spellbook magician had told him that Banner was safe, and also spoke of the spellbook tower's certification card. With it, one could challenge high-ranking mages in the village. Though he still hadn't met Dark Magician, that didn't matter much. What mattered was, Hikaru had recently deciphered the special entry requirement to the realm of the spellcasters. The Three Sages emblem. The Three Sages referred to Crowley, the Magistus of Grimoires, the great sage of Codex and leader of the Spellbook Tower Dimension, also known as Alistair the Invoker. Endymion the Master Magician, king of the Magical City Dimension. Witchcrafter Madame Vare, leader of the Witchcrafter Workshop. Together, they created the Village of Spellcasters, a dimension open to all spellcasters. Each of the three dual spirits held unique authority. Gathering their emblems would force open the realm's dimensional gate. That meant no need to hunt for coordinates. In short, this one card solved nearly every problem Hikaru faced: deck synergy, alchemical research, personal goals, and his friends' expectations. Because of that, his original plan to slowly wander around the critical nexus changed. He now decided to first hit the 1- and 2-star regions to help Selena collect 4 stamps to pass the semester, and to collect 8 stamps himself. He and Selena boarded the train back to the starting point. Hikaru planned to use the dimensional gate there to return to the academy, then head straight for the Grand Universe Workshop to plan out the collection of the Three Sages emblems, cutting out a trip to the Night Zone and saving time. Yet, as the train rolled along and they sat calmly, Hikaru noticed something in the sky. A looming black cloud was approaching. No. Not a cloud. But a swarm of demons, each wielding weapons. Chapter 324. A swarm of demons dripping with slime soared above the train. One of them raised its spear and swung it down toward the train. A bolt of purple lightning crashed down, striking the vehicle and sending it rocking from side to side. The entire train shuddered violently. Ah! Ah! The students screamed in terror, thrown into chaos. None of them had ever witnessed anything like this. Captain! Hikaru flung open the window and shouted. In response to his call, a towering gem giant appeared beside the train, raising an arm to block the descending lightning bolts. Hikaru gripped the window frame and vaulted outside. At the same time, countless puppet strings spread out from the cabin. Hikaru stepped onto a purple puppet string, grabbed the window's edge, and leapt atop the train, staring across the gap at the swarm of demons. Aside from Captain Crystal, a few spirits emerged from the train here and there, but none seemed strong enough. Under the demons' assault, they quickly fell back. Are you alright, Psychic Witch? Lock Cat, you okay? Hikaru could hear scattered voices calling out. Master! Selena tried to mimic her master's vault, hoping to help him. But in the next instant, the window before her was sealed by purple lines, completely blocking her escape. She tried to undo her seatbelt, only to realize puppet strings had also coiled around her, binding her in place. Window Wunshin, she panicked. Jabbing Panda, go help Master. She called to her partner, but after Jabbing Panda appeared, it didn't rush out. Instead, it shook its head, fists clenched, standing guard over her. Hikaru didn't want Selena getting hurt, and the spirit was there to protect her. Ha! Looks like a tough one, sneered a leading demon. Hikaru's brow furrowed. Tiara watched the demons with piqued interest. Hikaru had already recognized these monsters. They were low-level demons from the dark world. It seemed his premonition had been right. Attacking the train. So that's it, they were targeting human transportation to divide and sabotage their mobility? TCH. Standing atop the train as it sped along, Hikaru let the rushing wind whip his clothes, unbothered by the force or danger. His eyes were locked on the dark world demons. The moment they dared make a move, he'd respond with force. Normally, at a time like this, the dark world demons would send out one of their warriors to duel him. Though now, the demons raised their weapons again. They weren't trying to duel. They intended to destroy the train by brute force. These demons had no regard for the so-called honor of dueling. To them, fulfilling their king's orders came above all else. Hikaru's expression turned grim. It wasn't that they refused to duel. It was that he immediately realized there had to be similar surprise attacks at other nexus points as well, targeting human transport. Just as Hikaru prepared to face them with brute strength, a strange rift suddenly slashed across the sky. Then, a few demons split apart and died instantly. Jaya! Their sudden deaths drew blood-curdling screams, startling the surrounding demons into retreat. What just happened? Whoa! The students watching from the windows gasped. Did they have an ally? Hikaru turned and looked toward the front of the train. There stood a boy with messy hair and heavy eye bags, looking exhausted. But that wasn't the important part. The important part was he wore a purple uniform. Hikaru's eyes narrowed. Ha, didn't think I'd get a chance this soon, Amaki Hikaru. The boy turned his head slowly, hands in his pockets, and grinned at Hikaru. Even on top of the train, with fierce wind roaring around them, everyone could hear his voice. It's tough finding a moment when you're separated from Miss Selena. He nodded toward the demons. Gotta thank those brainless goons. As he spoke, the Dark World demons began to retreat. Tough target. Notify the higher-ranking generals. They indeed realized there were too many strong individuals hidden on this train. It wouldn't be an easy kill. But they hadn't given up, they intended to summon more powerful reinforcements. For now, though, they wouldn't interfere with Hikaru. So Hikaru shifted his gaze to the boy on the train. Could he be the Fusion Army assassin Professor Growler had warned about? Had he been following Hikaru all along? Ever since that letter from Professor Growler, it was only a matter of time before someone tracked him down. I am assassin number 44 from the Fusion Army's covert unit. Amaki Hikaru, you must already know why I'm here, right? He said with a dark smile. Without Growler's protection, do you really think you can keep acting like you own the school? Fusion Army. Those damn ghosts are still around. Amaki Hikaru and the Fusion Army. For many students, past memories flooded back. Some were thrilled, but others hesitated because of Hikaru's identity. Selena turned pale at the assassin's words. But she steeled herself and shouted, "Master! Be careful!" The assassin snapped his wrist. Boom! Hikaru felt the ground lurch beneath him as the train jolted. His expression darkened. Explosives? This guy planted bombs on the train. Even if they weren't the same species, Hikaru was furious that the Dark World demons attacked humans' transit. Regardless, this human. To show no regard for his own people's lives? Can't be helped. Miss Selena's still on board. Otherwise, I'd have blown the whole train up to take you with me, the assassin said, sounding utterly deranged. But this works too, Amaki Hikaru, you've always valued fusion and dueling above all, right? Beat me, and I'll disarm every bomb. Lose, and you can meet your classmates again in heaven. That's a no-win deal, a student cursed under his breath. Yeah. Duels are supposed to be fair. But the assassin ignored them, laughing madly. You don't have the right to refuse. Duel. Without even waiting for Hikaru's response, he activated his duel disc and drew a card. Assassin number 44, LP, 4000. Captain Crystal's figure faded, returning to Hikaru's deck as red light. Hikaru frowned at his opponent, then scoffed, activating his own duel disc. The deck auto-shuffled and cut. He drew his starting 5. Hikaru, LP, 4000. You can do it, Amaki Hikaru. Don't let that guy push you around, senpai. Some students cheered from inside the train. As the duel began, 2 mechanical arms popped open from the train roof. Several cameras focused on Hikaru and the assassin. Inside the train, the duel broadcast started playing. Kaiba Corp never missed a beat when it came to duels. Rumble, rumble, rumble. the train roared through a tunnel. Inside the pitch-black passage, Hikaru's eyes seemed to glow with purple light as he locked eyes with the assassin. Drawl the assassin pulled a card and smirked. Don't blame me for this, Amaki Hikaru. I activate the normal spell card, Final Countdown. Chapter 325. Assassin, LP, 4000-2000. Final Countdown. No way, it's that card. Many students panicked at the sight of it. Selena recognized it as well. The moment she saw the card, her trust in Amaki Hikaru instantly turned to worry. That card was far too dangerous. Pay 2000 life points to activate, the assassin grinned, explaining the well-known effect. After 20 turns from this card's activation, I win the duel. As he shouted, a massive, dark grin appeared in the sky above the tracks. 20 colorless flames slowly ignited in the air. 20 turns. Under normal circumstances, a duel wouldn't even last that long. Even so. That was under normal circumstances. Anyone with basic knowledge of the card knew. Decks that used this card were not easily defeated within 20 turns. Next, I set one monster and one card. End my turn. Ugh, called it. So cheap. Activating a card like that on the first turn before anyone can react. Seriously. The assassin couldn't care less. He wasn't after pride. He wanted Amaki Hikaru dead. At this very moment, the countdown begins. Turn 1. Boom. One black flame turned crimson. 19 turns left. My turn. Draw. Hikaru was unfazed and immediately drew. He glanced at his hand. I activate the continuous spell card, Scatter Fusion. Ha, fusion, ha. The assassin seemed uninterested. This card can only be activated if my opponent controls a monster, Hikaru declared, picking from his extra deck. Send the fusion materials listed on a non-rock type Gem Knight fusion monster from my deck to the graveyard, and fusion summon that monster from the extra deck. If this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. After this effect resolves, until the end of the turn, I can't special summon monsters from the extra deck, except Gem Knight monsters. Hikaru scanned his deck. I send Gem Knight Garnet and Gem Knight Crystal from my deck to the graveyard to fusion summon Valiant Red Knight, Gem Knight Ruby. A knight in gleaming red armor, distinct from Crystal, appeared on Hikaru's field. Gem Knight Ruby, level 6 Earth Pyro 2500 ATK. Ah! It's Ruby. Selena clapped. Right. Since Final Countdown costs 2000 LP to activate, that leaves him with only 2000 LP. If Ruby pierces through a set monster with def below 500, it's game over in one shot. Piercing damage? That's Hikaru for you, always thinking ahead. Ruby swung its scythe and cleaved through the set monster. It turned out to be a huge blue-furred rat. Squee. Giant rat. Def, 1450. Nice. That deals 1050 damage. Assassin, LP, 2950. When Giant Rat is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, I can special summon a monster with 1500 or less ATK from my deck. I special summon another Giant Rat. A second blue rat appeared. Giant Rat, level 4 Earth Beast 1400 ATK. That was pretty old school. Several students looked confused. If that was his plan, surviving 20 turns seemed ridiculous. I set one card. End my turn. Another flame in the sky ignited. Ha ha ha, Amaki Hikaru, you're probably thinking it's impossible to last 20 turns at this rate, right? The assassin drew a card, sneering at it. Truthfully, not just the students, but even he said it aloud. Paying 2000 LP on turn 1, then going passive, and hoping to survive 20 turns? How could that possibly work? Still, he was confident. My turn. Now I'll show you the source of that confidence. Think you can beat me with piercing damage? 1,000 or so points won't cut it. I activate the trap card. Try and guess. Ha! Hikaru blinked in surprise. The card art showed 3 Gaia Knights facing off. Try and guess? I've never heard of that card. Same here. Students exchanged confused glances. Indeed, none of them had ever seen or even heard of this card. Try and guess's effect: declare a monster card type from the extra deck to activate. Both players reveal their extra decks. The player with more cards of the declared type gains 3,000 life points. Oh, right. Hikaru-senpai just used a fusion monster, so he probably has fewer. Not necessarily. Few people pack their extra decks as full as Hikaru-senpai. In this world, extra deck monsters were quite rare. I declare. XYZ monster. What? Ha! Did he say XYZ monster? Hikaru was surprised, but only slightly. I have 0 XYZ monsters. Heh. I have one. The assassin revealed a black card. 1? No way. He has an XYZ monster just like Kaiser-senpai. And it's one he can actually use. Assassin, LP, 953,950. Alright, now I don't have to worry about my life points, he smirked. Next, I normal summon a third giant rat. Then, Hikaru noticed a red glow suddenly appearing on his opponent's forehead. A strange symbol materialized on his hand. What is that? A student cried out. They couldn't tell exactly what it was, but it was clear this assassin was about to unleash some kind of powerful energy no ordinary spirit could use. Oh? Tiara watched with interest. The glowing symbol on his hand intensified, growing larger until it engulfed his body. Hikaru squinted. Oh. 85, huh? Overlay 2 monsters to construct the overlay network. The 2 giant rats turned into black orbs. A massive swirling black vortex formed before the assassin. Boom, boom. The black spheres crashed into the vortex. After some floating and shifting, a colossal cube slowly rose from it. On the surface was engraved a huge otherworldly number, 85. As the number glowed red, the cube split open and rotated, revealing a glaring eyeball peering darkly at the world. Appear now. Rank 4. Number 85, Crazy Box. Chapter 326, Stupidity. The massive die spun slowly in the air, leaving the students watching the duel slack-jawed. Number 85, Crazy Box, Rank 4 DRK Fiend 3000 ATK. An XYZ monster. And a number? That means there are at least 84 more. Its attack is 3000, that's Blue Eyes level. If they're all that strong, then what's next? Assassin number 44 panted with a deranged smile. Using this card drained his body and clouded his mind with the thrill of gambling and the hunger to kill. Originally, he had planned a sneakier, safer ambush against Amaki Hikaru. After all, he wasn't confident he could beat him in a fair duel. That said, one day, he had awakened to this power, a power beyond human comprehension. He realized that as long as he gambled, the outcome always bent to his will. And so he craved victory more than ever. Crazy Box's monster effect: once per turn, detach 1 XYZ material, roll a die, and activate a different effect. I detach 1 XYZ material. Crazy Box, materials, 2-1. The giant black box began to spin wildly. Through its various faces, twisted sights could be seen: wings, eyes, legs, all eerie and dreamlike. Moments later, the box slammed to the ground. 5 pips facing up. A massive arm. Haha 5. Crazy Box's effect: roll a 5, destroy 1 card on the field. He pointed at the continuous spell behind Hikaru. I destroy your scatter fusion. The top of Crazy Box opened, and a demonic claw reached out, seizing the shining gem on Hikaru's field and crushing it with a crack. Tisk 1 in 6 chance, huh? Amaki Hikaru, looks like your luck isn't so great, Tiara remarked. Oh no! Selena cried out. This is bad. With Scatter Fusion destroyed, Gem Knight Ruby loses its power source and is sent to the graveyard too, leaving Hikaru with no monsters to defend him. And that crazy box has 3000 attack. If he takes a direct hit. It's fine, Hikaru replied calmly, unshaken. Crazy box can't attack. Huh? What? All the students froze. Even the assassin stared blankly for a second before blurting, "How did you know that?" Then he shut his mouth and glared at Hikaru. Letting your opponent read you during a duel was mental suicide. He couldn't let it happen again. I set 2 cards. End turn. Meanwhile, another flame ignited in the sky. Final countdown, turn 3. Hikaru rubbed his chin. A number, huh? If it's a number, that explains it. People in this world usually couldn't XYZ summon properly. Even Kaiser used bizarre photon gear to do it. There must be a connection between Kaiser and his family. So running into a number didn't surprise him much. However, since it's a number, it probably had that trait. O-version numbers didn't. Though in the original series, every number monster had this effect. They can't be destroyed by battle except by another number. This guy probably remembered that, and figured that pairing Final Countdown with a 3000 ATK crazy box that can't be destroyed in battle would be hard to break in this world. It was a decent plan. After all, Crazy Box couldn't attack. Smart, though it would have been better if it were number 59, Crooked Cook. That one had immunity to everything, and in this world, likely couldn't be destroyed by battle either. Now that would be an ideal stalling card. As for Crazy Box. Still, Hikaru considered. He'd faced plenty of stall decks before. He knew their weakness well. That's why he fused Ruby instead of his favorite, Gem Knight Prismora. My turn. Draw. He glanced at the card. I activate the spell card, Shad Doll Fusion. Since my opponent controls a monster. Not happening, the assassin snapped, flipping a set card. Trap card, Solemn Judgment. Pay half LP, negate the spell or trap activation and destroy it. Before Hikaru could resolve the spell, an old man appeared in midair and simply said, "You shall not." Assassin number 44, LP, 3950-1975. Smart move, a student muttered. He might act crazy, but that guy clearly knows Hikaru's recent strategies. If Shad Doll Fusion resolved and Hikaru brought out Construct, Crazy Box's 3000 ATK wouldn't have mattered. It would have been wiped instantly. Fine, Hikaru said without flinching. Then I play this. Normal spell card, Instant Fusion. Pay 1000 LP to fusion summon a level 5 or lower fusion monster from the extra deck. Damn, that's so like Hikaru, a student shouted, standing on their seat. Ha, another outsider looked puzzled. ATK 3000? Doesn't matter. No need for effects. Hikaru just needs to bring out Thousand Eyes Restrict and use its effect to absorb Crazy Box. Thousand Eyes Restrict. Hikaru has that card. A wave of excitement erupted. Then he's got this. Ha! Naive, the assassin crossed his arms, sneering. He looked extremely confident. I pay 1000 LP to fusion summon, Thousand Eyes Restrict. Thousand Eyes Restrict, level 1 DARK spellcaster 0 ATK. Hikaru, LP, 4000 3000. At this moment, I also activate a card. The assassin flipped his second set. Quick play spell, Forbidden Chalice. Target one face-up monster on the field. It gains 400 ATK and has its effects negated until the end of this turn. A floating chalice appeared and tilted gently, letting a single drop of holy water land on the wicked god. Thousand Eyes Restrict, ATK, 0400. However, in exchange, it lost its powerful effect. Clever. End turn. Hikaru calmly picked up Thousand Eyes Restrict from his duel disk and sent it to the graveyard. At the end of the turn, due to instant fusion's effect, Thousand Eyes Restrict is destroyed. Above, the grinning final countdown grew darker. The fourth flame blazed. He stopped everything. Even the perfect opening Hikaru created. How? How is this even happening? Come on, Hikaru. Fight back. Panic spread among the students. If Hikaru lost, they might all go down with him. They'd become victims of that lunatic. And yet all of Hikaru's solutions were shut down by that guy. What now? Master. Selena clenched her fists, then suddenly stood up. The puppet strings only kept her from leaving the car, not from moving. Everyone. Don't give up. Master would never lose. Believe in him, believe in fusion. Master, you can do it. She cupped her hands around her mouth and shouted toward the top of the train. Some students, who had been writing farewells or thinking of jumping, were shaken. Selena, daughter of the Fusion Army's leader, Amaki Hikaru's student, and the nexus of everything, was still fighting. How could they give up? Damn. One student slapped himself. I actually doubted Hikaru was with the Fusion Army. His friends nodded. They had all once suspected Hikaru after the Fusion Army incidents. It was hard to trust someone who constantly preached about fusion being the noblest method. Regardless, everything was clear now. When demons appeared, Hikaru had jumped off the train to protect them. When threatened, he hadn't run, he stayed to duel. Amaki Hikaru would never side with the Fusion Army. You got this, Hikaru. All the students crowded around the monitors in every car, shouting with everything they had. Ha! Assassin number 44 chuckled at their noise. Even now, they still trust you? Just imagine their faces when you fail. That's gonna be priceless. Hikaru looked down toward the train. He couldn't see the students. Yet, the rage and gloom brought on by the Dark World and Fusion Army faded. Maybe it was because he felt lighter. Enough to make small talk. Fail? What are you talking about? I'd never let my classmates die because of me. Ha, still bluffing. Hikaru raised his right hand and snapped his fingers. Tiara laughed, amused by his impression of her. Even so, she didn't mind. With a snap of her own, she raised a mass of puppet strings. The train rumbled. Behind the strings, a mass of metallic objects wrapped in thread flew into the sky, partially disassembled. Assassin number 44's eyes went wide. Those were bombs. The bombs he had painstakingly planted on the train over an entire day using the power of a number. All now airborne, dismantled. Foolish, Hikaru said. Chapter 327. Wow. Hikaru, this guy. He actually thought this far ahead. Yeah, damn, I'm such an idiot. While they were dueling, we should have gone for the bombs. Some of the students watching the duel only realized after Hikaru revealed those items. Right, physical duels should be resolved with physical means. Number 44's face was dark. His plan had collapsed, and he looked like a clown spouting nonsense in front of Amaki Hikaru. Now he was boiling with rage, though when someone is furious to the extreme, they stop yelling and instead throw themselves even harder into their actions. My turn. Draw. Amaki Hikaru, I will make you pay. He looked at his hand. Activate Crazy Box's effect again. Roll the die. Crazy Box spun wildly and then. It was a 5 again. This number card resided within his body, and thus, it could unleash the power worthy of a number. Put simply, when using this number card, he could get whatever number he wanted. Destroy your set card. Crazy Box, XYZ material, 1-0. A hand from within Crazy Box grabbed the set card and revealed it. Trap card, Gem Knight Fusion. And I'm not done yet. I normal summon, Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. Arf. Arf. The mechanical hound appeared on his field. Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, Level 3 Earth Machine 1000 ATK. When Hunting Hound is summoned, deals 600 damage to the opponent. The Hound lunged at Amaki Hikaru. He raised his left hand to block, but the beast bit down on him, and a jet black energy flared from his wrist. That was the influence of a number. The Hound's attack had become real damage, making his wrist ache. Hikaru, LP, 2400. I'm not done yet, Amaki Hikaru. I attacked directly with Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. The Hound charged forward again, attempting to knock Hikaru off the train. Hikaru furrowed his brows slightly, then backhanded the Hound, swatting it back. Still pulling this action duel crap? Hikaru, LP, 1400. Battle phase ends. Activate Hunting Hound's effect. I can fusion summon an Ancient Gear fusion monster using monsters from my field and hand. I fuse the Ancient Gear Hunting Hound on my field with one from my hand. Fusion summon. Level 5, Double Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. In defense position. Double Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. Level 5 Earth Machine 1000 Def. After completing all that, he let out a sigh of relief. Double Ancient Gear Hunting Hound places gear counters when summoned or special summoned, causing monsters to be destroyed when they attack. It's a good line of defense. And if luck was on his side, he might not even need final countdown, he could just win next turn with another Hunting Hound strike. End turn. 6 flames had already lit up in the sky. Heh, Maki Hikaru, don't you dare lose to my fusion. That would be hilarious. The red number on his forehead flared even brighter. Anyhow, Hikaru completely ignored him and gazed out. Time's about up. Question mark. The train should be arriving soon. Hikaru mused aloud. What the hell are you talking about? I'm saying, someone who gets tempted by raw power, then resorts to other summoning methods without understanding them, with no principles or beliefs, and even dares to use fusion and ancient gears in front of me, is not worthy of speaking to me about fusion. He looked at the assassin and scoffed. Even though you've dug up my information from these past weeks, you fusion army types still approach others with the same outdated methods. You've already suffered huge losses, yet you continue to rely on assumptions. You're like headless flies gnawing on rot. As for me, even if my cards don't change, I've always been fusing, always evolving. Watch closely. This is the final turn. Draw. Hikaru drew his card, glanced at it, and slapped it onto the field. Normal summon, Alistair the Invoker. He extended his hand forward. A soft green rune lit up in his right palm, and with its glow, the image of a stoic male spellcaster slowly materialized. Alistair the Invoker, Level 4 DARK Spellcaster 1000 ATK. Alistair's monster effect. Once per turn, when this card is normal or flip summoned, add 1 invocation from the deck to the hand. Come forth, invocation. From his deck, a card floated up, landing in his right hand, glowing with faint light. Never seen this card before. But if it's used by Hikaru, then it has to be fusion. Invocation, activate. Above the speeding train, a massive magic circle lit up. Alistair's image on the field began to fade. When fusion summoning an invoked fusion monster with invocation, you can banish monsters from your field and your own or opponent's graveyard as fusion material. What? That's strong. I banish Alistair from my field and Captain Crystal from my graveyard. Hikaru didn't even use Giant Rat as material. Fusion summon, invoked Magellanica. The sky grew oppressively hot. In the distant mountains, a titan slowly rose, its right hand linked to a magical array, heralding its arrival. Invoked Magellanica, Level 8 Earthrock 3000 ATK. 3000 attack. Despite that, it doesn't matter. Number 44 sneered. Number monsters can't be destroyed by battle with non-numbers. Even with 3000 ATK, it's useless. Ha! I already knew that. Activate, Metamorphosis. That spell transforms a monster on the field into a fusion monster of the same level. The assassin turned pale. Didn't you look at my extra deck? Don't you know what I'm doing? Wait, is it Master of Chaos? Exactly. Send invoked Magellanica to the graveyard and special summon a monster of the same level from the extra deck, Master of Chaos. A mage bearing the visage of Blackluster Soldier let out a quiet growl as he appeared in front of Hikaru. Master of Chaos, level 8 DARK spellcaster 3000 ATK. A fusion monster requiring Blackluster Soldier in Dark Magician, and he summoned it that easily. Number 44 swallowed. Still, Master of Chaos's banish effect needs light and dark monsters on the field. Hikaru slowly revealed another card from his hand. Spell card, Fusion Deployment. Ugh. You already looked at my extra deck, yet still couldn't guess my play. Hikaru said coldly. I knew from the start that you'd fuse into double Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. But you? Just relying on the power of your number? Utterly foolish. And you thought you could assassinate me. Don't be arrogant, Fusion Army. Hikaru's aura surged. If this is all you've got, then come at me, all of you, I'll crush every last one of you. Fusion Deployment Effect, reveal one fusion monster from the extra deck, then special summon one monster listed as material from the hand or deck. Reveal, Cyber Twin Dragon. Special summon, Cyber Dragon. VRRRM. Cyber Dragon coiled above the train. Cyber Dragon, level 5 Light Machine 2100 ATK. The fact that number monsters can't be destroyed by battle, I've known that. Remember Triang S? It lets both players check each other's extra decks. Even without past life knowledge, Hikaru had thoroughly reviewed Crazy Box's effect. He wouldn't make a mistake like that. The assassin belatedly realized this. He had only compared card quantities, ignoring Hikaru's actual extra deck choices. Activate Master of Chaos's effect. Send one light and one dark monster from your field to the graveyard to banish all monsters your opponent controls. Chaos Phantom Slash. Master of Chaos slashed open a rift, and in moments, everything on the field was sucked into it. Soon, the field was wiped clean. Damn it. Hikaru stood with one hand in his pocket, watching the furious number 44. Yet he showed no joy, only continuing to stare him down. After a moment, he suddenly spoke. You're watching me, aren't you? Everyone was baffled. Several students murmured, huh? Hikaru didn't explain. He simply looked at the assassin and continued. You're watching me, aren't you, Leo Akaba? ZZZZT. Number 44 noticed a screeching sound coming from somewhere on his body. What? He looked down at his clothes, terrified. A moment later, dizziness overwhelmed him and he dropped to one knee, finally realizing the truth. Back when he was dispatched to deal with Amaki Hikaru, Leo Akaba had already sentenced him to death. He was merely a disposable pawn to observe Hikaru's current state. Tragically, he had realized it too late. Using a number always comes with a price. He's gone? After facing off against many Fusion Army assassins, and with Professor Growler having just encountered Leo Akaba through another of their duelists, Hikaru wasn't surprised in the slightest. His only regret was that Leo Akaba hadn't taken over the duel himself. If he had, Hikaru wouldn't have hesitated to unleash super polymerization, even if it meant exposing it to his classmates. Well then, might as well finish it properly. Hikaru looked at his last card. There was no need to let others know Alistair's full effects, so he didn't retrieve him. Pay 800 LP. Activate an equip spell and fusion again to revive a fusion monster from the graveyard. Amaki Hikaru, LP, 1400-600. Special summon, Gem Knight Ruby. The scythe-wielding Gem Knight rose again, spinning her weapon. Gem Knight Ruby, level 6 Earth Pyro 2500 ATK. Ruby, direct attack. Ruby swung her scythe, dashing forward, and slashed straight at the assassin's heart. With her strike, countless puppet strings followed, piercing through the assassin, as if extracting something vital from within him. Assassin number 44, LP, 1975-0. Whoa! He won! Yes! Hikaru! Hikaru! True fusion, Amaji Hikaru! The students cheered ecstatically. With their cheers, the train slowly pulled into the station. Students waiting outside were drawn by the noise. They saw Amaki Hikaru standing on the train roof, dual disc in hand, seemingly having just finished a duel. They could hear the deafening cheers coming from inside the train. Anyways, more importantly, they could feel it. These cheers were heartfelt. And they knew that the Amaki Hikaru loved by all his classmates. This was still that same Amaki Hikaru. They could tell from this roaring applause. Chapter 328, GX Competition Suspended. The train successfully returned to the GX tournament's starting point, but Hikaru had no mind or time to dwell on anything else. The most pressing matter, of course, was retrieving the number card. Though Hikaru bore the Amaki surname, he wasn't a hunter from the neighboring dimension. He lacked the method to simply claim a number card. Perhaps through alchemical experimentation, he could eventually discover such a method, although now wasn't the time. Thus, Hikaru had no choice but to let Tiara release her power and forcibly extract the assassin's soul from his body, taking the card with it. Standing atop the train, Hikaru tried to hold the card. Immediately, dissonant voices swirled in his mind. With a shake of his head, he handed it off to Tiara for safekeeping. It couldn't be helped. Maybe he could try controlling it like Ryoga Kamishiro did in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, but there was no need. Crazy Box and Fusion were completely unrelated. There was no reason to include it in his deck just to fuse into something like Elder Entity NTSS. With that taken care of, more problems awaited. Hikaru wasted no time. As soon as he disembarked, he sprinted toward Kaibacorp's base of operations. He had to verify the status of all trains and assess the state of the entire critical nexus dimension. Just as he had imagined. The Dark World's decision to attack human trains couldn't have been spontaneous. It had been long planned and coordinated. At a given signal, they launched simultaneous assaults on every train. Almost every train route in the critical nexus dimension had been attacked. That said, to Hikaru's surprise, despite the widespread assault, nearly half the trains remained operational. Some of that was thanks to students working together, using their dual spirits to fend off the Dark World fiends. Another small portion was protected by Fusion Army soldiers employing their signature canine patrol tactics. After all, they didn't want their own routes ransacked either. But the real savior, the group that rescued the vast majority of students, was a unique force Hikaru had seldom interacted with before. The Society of Light. It was as if they'd foreseen the assault, acting in advance to shield most of the students. What about the others? Hikaru ignored the matter of the Society of Light and stormed toward a Kaibacorp staffer. The students on the blocked trains, what's their status? They're trapped on board and barely fending off the demons. Give me a schematic. Hikaru didn't want empty chatter. He pointed at the critical nexus map on the screen. Whether it was because of his overwhelming presence or a direct order from above, a worker quickly handed him a tablet showing the state of each train. Bus. Soon, a large bus arrived at the station, arranged by Kaibacorp. Kaibacorp might have anticipated spirit attacks, but they hadn't expected anything on this scale. Their staff were at a temporary loss, but fortunately, supplies were ample. Whatever Hikaru needed, they could provide. While Hikaru waited for the necessary equipment, the station's broadcast system came alive. Emergency announcement, due to an attack by unknown spirit forces, all duelists outside are advised to return to the station and await further instructions. Emergency announcement. The GX tournament is temporarily suspended. Students who are trapped aboard trains must remain where they are. Kaibacorp will dispatch rescue personnel. Repeat, the GX tournament is temporarily suspended. A gentle female voice echoed throughout the station in trains. Hearing it, Hikaru nodded quietly. Compared to the original series, this world had long been familiar with spirits and parallel dimensions, not to mention the Fusion Army's invasion of Shinsun. Preparations had been made. The vehicle is ready, Student Amaki. Do you need driver rotations? No drivers needed. Hikaru waved the question aside as he bolted outside. In response, a massive silver-gray demon appeared in the sky, clutching the bus in both hands. Hikaru swung open the door and leapt in. The demon beat its wings and took flight. While others were still processing what had happened, some in confusion, others in panic, Hikaru had already flown out of the station aboard the bus. Those watching were left in awe. Evidently, they understood why Hikaru was in such a rush. And so, as rescued students on other trains later recounted what had happened, Hikaru's name began to spread once more throughout the station. Quick-thinking students, realizing Hikaru's intentions, immediately took to their phones, reaching out to friends with messages of reassurance: "Stay calm, don't panic, help is on the way." And at that very moment, someone else was watching Hikaru fly off. Inside the station, in a vast white chamber, Sartorius watched Hikaru's silhouette disappear into the distance. The corners of his lips curled upward. Ha 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 ha, ha ha. Fate was even more generous than he'd imagined. With the surge of Light's aura, this dimension would soon plunge into war. The wheel of destiny would turn ceaselessly. The GX tournament's suspension? Even better. He looked down at his deck. It emanated an eerie black aura. This attack had given him a tremendous opportunity. His Society of Light had saved countless students. Grateful and relieved, these students would naturally be inclined to listen to the Society's teachings, and accepting the voice of fate would follow. Thus, the power he sought was steadily growing. Still, it wasn't enough. To destroy all dimensions, this alone was insufficient. His smile faded slowly. "Lord Sartorius, Aster Phoenix has come to see you again," a white-robed student reported routinely. Since arriving at the critical nexus, Sartorius hadn't once contacted Aster. Meanwhile, Aster had abandoned all interest in the GX tournament, refusing to duel at all. Not because he'd lost his best friend and couldn't function, no, it was because Aster had learned, through certain channels, that Sartorius knew the identity of his father's killer. However, he had never told him. For Aster, vengeance outweighed any tournament. Yet Sartorius, who unquestionably knew the answer, had kept it from him, even going so far as to deliberately distance himself and refuse all contact. How could Aster accept that? Sartorius. Sartorius. Tell me, who is it? Even with demons prowling outside, even with a month having passed since the GX tournament began, Aster Phoenix remained steadfast, knocking on that door daily, demanding answers. Sartorius's previously composed smile suddenly widened into something grotesque. A moment later, his eyes opened wide, glowing with a crimson light. Good. It had come. The original light of ruin. "I'll send someone to drive him off," the reporting student said as usual. "No, let him come." Chapter 329, Doubts and Confusion. Inside Sartorius's fortune-telling chamber, Aster staggered backward in shock, slamming into the door with a loud thud. Impossible, no way, how could it be? Aster's eyes bulged with disbelief. He didn't care about the pain from hitting the door. He could only speak. The man in question, he was the reigning world duel champion. Since Seto Kaiba left the pro dueling scene, this man had held the title of world's #1 pro duelist for multiple consecutive tournaments. Yet, more than that, he had one role most important to Aster: he was Aster's adoptive father. Aster became a professional duelist largely because of him. When Aster lost his biological father, this man, his father's close friend, appeared and promised to duel him on the pro stage someday. When his father died in an accident, it was this man who raised him. Much of Aster's success could be attributed to his teachings. And now, Sartorius had told him that the person who murdered his father, who stole his father's ultimate deed card, was none other than the man he'd admired, respected, his adoptive father? How could he possibly accept that? "I'm sorry." Sartorius sat in his chair, hands folded on the table. His face was heavy with guilt. A tear rolled from his right eye as he spoke in a low voice. I always feared that if you knew the truth, you couldn't accept it, so I never told you. Aster felt as if lightning had struck him. He stood frozen. He stared at Sartorius, mouth agape. He didn't know when Sartorius had learned the truth. He couldn't tell if Sartorius was being sincere. Lately, Sartorius felt like a stranger. However, this, his father's murder, was too monumental. He couldn't stay calm. Damn it! Aster turned and shoved the doors open. I'm going to confront him myself. As he turned, the invisible chains wrapped around him grew more vivid. The black threads of fate coiled around this natural-born hero, chaining his life to destiny, death, and destruction. Wait! Student, please wait. Don't leave the station now. It's dangerous out there. But in no time, Aster burst past the guards, pressing a button hidden inside his coat. Wings deployed from within, and he soared off in the direction he believed his adoptive father to be. Hearing the noise, Sartorius's weeping right face twisted with deeper sorrow. The sun slowly set. The curtains opened automatically. Shadows blanketed his right face. The room lights clicked on, illuminating his left side, revealing a wide, grotesque grin. Things were advancing. Amaki Hikaru had already rescued a trainful of people and was on his way back to the critical Nexus's starting station. Kaiba Corp's rescue teams had begun deployment. Meanwhile, near a mountain. Shining Flare Wingman's monster effect. Inflict damage to the opponent equal to the destroyed monster's ATK. With a shout, Jaden Yuki commanded Shining Flare Wingman to unleash a torrent of fire, reducing a charging demon warrior to ash. You okay? On the side, his two friends helped rescue more students. What's going on? Why is this happening? A few first-year students clung together, trembling. Not all students were at the station or on the trains. Some, like Jaden, liked to run around. Some were confident in their abilities, protected by their spirits, and avoided capture. But some were just careless. Students who treated another world like a vacation, not thinking about getting stronger or dueling, just wandering for fun. Those with power and luck could call it adventure. Without either, it was suicide. The students Jaden rescued this time were the latter. Jaden, message from Hikaru. Cyrus showed Jaden his phone. Jaden read it, his face turning serious. Spirit invasion. Jaden gritted his teeth. Why would they do this? A quick scan told him this was the same spirit faction that attacked Skyscraper. Dark World, it seemed. They invaded Hero World, and now they want to invade every dimension. He clenched his fists. Just like Leo Akaba. As he thought this, a massive silver demon flew overhead with a swarm of minor fiends. Jaden instantly activated his dual disc, standing protectively before the others. Cyrus, Hasselberry, protect them. Jaden, you've already fought a lot. Cyrus wavered. He should be the one to fight. It's fine. Jaden smiled again with that signature confidence. Heroes don't retreat. The Dark World demons gathered. According to their commander's strategy, their first objective was to destroy human transport systems. Then, systematically break down or raid humanity to achieve their goals. With only half the transport destroyed, their next step was to assault human strongholds and attempt to cripple the dimensional system, locking humanity inside the critical Nexus dimension. However, if they spotted isolated humans, they'd always prioritize picking them off. After all, assaulting a huge base with just one or two hired demons would be inefficient, and they had only so many elite units to spare. The demons landed slowly around Jaden. Some students cried out in fear. The lead demon snorted in disdain. Then, with a metallic shing, its right hand extended into a cold, gleaming blade. The blade morphed midair into a dual disc, locking eyes with Jaden. Jaden crouched slightly, ready for a serious fight. Even though he'd taken down several Dark World demons, this one was clearly a higher-tier fiend. He couldn't be careless. But just as they were about to duel, the silver demon narrowed its eyes at Jaden, hesitating. "Give me that!" It suddenly shouted at a subordinate. The lackey hesitated. In frustration, the silver demon grabbed it and yanked a parchment from its arms. It examined the parchment closely. And then, eyes wide. The Overlord. Just as it muttered those words, a golden demon flew over with a group of fiends, hurling a bolt of golden lightning at them without warning. A projection of Neos appeared before Jaden, blocking the blast. "Stop! What are you doing?" The silver demon roared at the incoming fiend. "That one is." Yet, the golden demon only laughed. "Ha ha ha! By Lord Mad King's orders, I'll destroy the former demon." Hearing the voice, the silver demon screamed in rage toward the sky. "Where's your loyalty?" Indeed, the Mad King's faction recognized him. While Jaden stood dumbfounded, the silver demon suddenly spread its wings and, rallying its minions, launched itself toward the attacker. "Jaden?" Hasselberry called out, confused. "Are they fighting each other?" "Doesn't matter. Hasselberry, Cyrus, we're outta here." Jaden snapped to action, hastily ushering everyone away. "Got it. Roger." Cyrus pulled out a card, summoning a small vehicle. He loaded the students aboard and rushed them away from the chaos. Chapter 330, Sorrow, Grief, and Rage. This is a story about a hero. Many years ago, Aster Phoenix was a bright-eyed child, full of dreams like many others. He admired heroes and fantasized about becoming a great duelist. For a time, he even dreamed of following in his father's footsteps, not as a duelist, but as a card designer for industrial illusions. Anyhow, everything changed that night. That evening, when Aster returned home, it wasn't his father who greeted him, but his father's lifeless body on the ground. Cards were scattered beside him. The windows were shattered. A frigid wind pierced Aster to the bone. All that was left to him was his father's final creation, the Hero D-Series. On that blurred, sorrowful rainy day, at his father's funeral, he met Sartorius and DD. It was the start of something new, yet as if he'd been trapped in place ever since. His life froze in that moment. It was as though time itself had been stabbed by a dagger, the clock hand refusing to tick forward. His body, his dueling skill, his mind, they continued to grow. Yet, his heart remained stuck in that night. He once tried relying on the police. Despite that, endless waiting left him disillusioned. If the police couldn't find the killer, then he would do it himself. With his father's legacy, the Destiny Heroes, he traveled the world disguised as a hero, punishing those who stole and robbed duel cards, all while searching for his father's murderer. Using cards, he grew stronger and even earned Pegasus's praise. Even so, that was never what he truly wanted. Aster had stopped thinking about those things long ago. He left Kybercorp's station and found DD. Though by the time he arrived, the spirit village was engulfed in smoke and death. Stealing the seal wasn't enough. D.D used the power of cards to annihilate the village, along with the TV reporters and pro-duelists who had come with him. With the Dark World invasion as cover, D.D had the chance to unleash his destructive urges. By the time Aster arrived, D.D was laughing maniacally. There was no need to hesitate anymore. No matter how unbelievable it seemed. When cries and corpses lay before him, he no longer needed to think. D.D had never been a kind or gentle man. His heart was filled with madness and destruction. Even so, Aster instinctively shouted, D.D. What's the truth? What he got in return was D.D's hysterical laughter, and the truth of that night. Yes, on that day, D.D, his father's friend, had heard the call of the cards. The power awakened his long-hidden greed. Jealousy of his father, lust for strength, he finally struck. Friendship? A hollow social courtesy. An adopted son? Watching Aster spin in circles daily nearly made him laugh aloud. Why? Ha ha, isn't pursuing powerful cards every duelist's instinct? Just like you, aren't you using destiny heroes others couldn't even wield? D.D. Just for that reason. Aster roared. He activated his duel disc and began the duel. And in that instant, the world around him changed. Everything vanished, the flames, the wails, D.D's maniacal laughter. All that remained was a vast white space. He blinked. Aster. Aster Phoenix whipped around. There stood his closest friend, a weary, ghostly figure. Sartorius. Aster gasped. Where is this? What did you do? Sartorius didn't let him speak further. He cut in directly. Aster, listen to me. Speak. Trusting his only remaining friend, Aster forcibly pushed aside every doubt in his heart and nodded. Aster, listen. That card in D.D's hand, it's the card from years ago. The one that brought the light of destruction into our world for the first time. As he spoke, Sartorius's image began to blur. The light of destruction is stronger than we imagined. It's evolving faster than we anticipated. Still reeling from the revelation that his adoptive father killed his real one, Aster now had to process that this light was growing even more powerful. His headache deepened. He tried to calm down and listen. According to Sartorius, the light of destruction is the source of all destructive urges, the root of madness and war in all living beings. Originally, it only existed in their world. However, with the emergence of dimensional exploration, its power grew exponentially, amplified by countless other dimensions. Now, it was beginning to spread. That's why its influence on humanity had become increasingly terrifying. The ultimate D, the card D.D held, was the light of destruction's earliest vessel in the human world. Its power was raw and pure. If Aster's fate nourished it, and it returned to the light's current host, the resulting power surge might birth an even more terrifying card. Aster, don't lose your head, don't let the pain devour you. Before Sartorius could finish, his form began to twist and flicker. Sartorius. Aster reached for him. No matter what you see, no matter what you do, don't let him control you. Sartorius's voice faded as his body disappeared, leaving only an echo. A moment later, Aster snapped back to reality. D.D had summoned 3 low-level monsters and now stood laughing coldly. Aster took a deep breath. No matter what I see, I won't lose my head. He was a calm duelist. He'd endured loss and grief. Nothing could make him lose control. Tribute my 3 monsters for a special summon. Ha, Aster, behold your long-lost desire, Ultimate D. Special summon, Destiny Hero, Plasma. Wounds burst open on the monsters. Their bodies split with agonized screams as their blood rose into the sky. The blood of spirits and humans alike surged from every direction, forming a massive crimson sphere. Then, the sphere exploded. A terrifying blood rain poured down over the village. From it, a warrior with bat-like wings slowly emerged, demonic and terrifying. The blood swirled around him, darkening the sky and freezing even the boldest spirits. The warrior spread his wings, raised his hand, and descended like the devil himself. Plasma. Aster clenched his jaw. This was the most important card his father ever created. In any case, since it had been stolen, he was ready to face it head-on. This level of power. Aster. Suddenly, Aster's eyes widened. Within Plasma's wings, in that endless sea of blood, he heard a voice. A familiar voice he could never forget. Aster. A figure emerged from within Plasma's body. Dad, Dad. Aster froze in disbelief. Ah, what a beautiful reunion, D.D laughed. You didn't know, did you? Your father's soul has been trapped inside Plasma's body, suffering endlessly. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, I'll send you to join him. D.D. Aster's eyes burned with dark violet light. Shadows swirled around him, casting a deep darkness even upon his silver-white suit. He could tell his father was trying to speak, but the evil force suppressed him, forcing him to writhe and scream in agony. He couldn't convey his heart. D. I won't forgive you. With those words, Aster cast aside all thoughts of Sartorius. Rage and sorrow snapped the last thread of his reason. He couldn't think anymore. In that blurred moment, he heard a sigh. He felt like a child again. Trapped in that night. The night his father died before his eyes. The chains of fate tightened around the tragic hero. 30 minutes later. Aster stood before a village engulfed in flames, a single card in his hand. D truly was once the world's strongest pro-duelist. Nevertheless, that was the past. In the wind, D's maniacal laughter still seemed to echo. Aster looked down at the card in his hand, Destiny Hero, Plasma. It seemed to grin, mock, and sneer at him. He felt blood from the card flowing into him, tainting the power of the heroes within him that once stood against darkness, allowing the darkness to take hold. In the air, a faint voice still called to him, Sartorius's fading warning. There was still a chance. A chance to break the chains of fate. The voice repeated that hope again and again. But now, Aster could no longer tell if that voice was his friend's. Or something more sinister, seductive, and false. The sun. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.